Hi everyone, it's Randi from Networking for Law Students LLC. We were so proud to be able to sponsor the platform for the Facebook group Becoming Black Female Barristers panel discussion entitled Networking 101. Parts of this live discussion have been edited and others had to be refilmed because there's music playing in the background from either us or from a passerby. And you can't use copyrighted music on YouTube without permission. Anyway, this was a great panel discussion and I hope you enjoy.
Attention attorneys and law students. There are over 200 law schools in the United States. You know what's frustrating? Few law schools teach how to network in the legal field. Big on legal theory, but short on practical skills. Students pay thousands of dollars toward a legal education and may still struggle making connections or getting a job after graduation. Networking for Law Students LLC is trying to change that. Started by a woman that graduated from law school in only 2 years, Networking for Law Students offers tips. We are looking to create a never-before-seen interactive online course for law students on networking and interviewing. Open call to attorneys, bar associations, law professors, and judges. We'd like to feature you for our networking course. Promote your business by giving back. We'd only need less than 15 minutes of your time. Law students, sign up now to be notified when the course is released. Please visit www.networkingforlawstudents.com for more information.
Hi everyone, good evening, and welcome. Welcome to Networking 101 with Becoming Black Female Barristers. I am so excited for everybody that joined us today. We're so excited to just talk with you all and just really just be authentic tonight and let you in on some secrets when it comes to networking. I want to start out by just introducing myself. My name is Ashley Wright, and I am a licensed attorney in the state of Florida, particularly in Orlando, Florida. I practice insurance defense litigation with Geico Insurance Company. So I want to thank you all for coming here tonight. I have the most baddest attorneys and soon to be attorneys with me joining me tonight. So they're going to give you all an opportunity to kind of tell you all about themselves. But tonight, just really quickly, again, like I stated, we're here to talk about networking. If you all don't know, or if you all do know, networking is extremely vital to the legal profession. It's sort of how we meet one another. It's how we connect. And so when we're networking, we're actually creating opportunities to build relationships, authentic relationships, and actually leverage those relationships to sort of take us where we need to go and also to help out others. That's what our profession is all about, leveraging connections and relationships with others. So without further ado, I'm going to allow these lovely ladies to introduce themselves, and then we're just going to go ahead and get started. So starting with you, Danielle.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Danielle Lynn, Esquire. I am also a licensed attorney in the state of Florida. This year, September, will make 4 years since I've been licensed. As you can see, I am a proud FAMU graduate, FAMU Law Class of 2016. And my practice areas kind of have run the gamut. So I started off in dependency and family law, then went to litigation, specifically real estate litigation, and I am currently practicing in the areas of contract law, intellectual property, and business law as far as formation of different business entities. And I'm really excited to be here and share the knowledge that I've gained so far.
Good evening, everyone. My name is attorney Lashawn McQueen. I am licensed here in the state of Georgia, primarily in Atlanta, but for the whole state of Georgia. My practice areas are criminal defense, personal injury, contract law, and I can do family law, but I just kind of prefer not to. And I actually just got sworn in this year, probably about like 6 weeks ago now. So I'm a new attorney, but I'm a new attorney on the rise, but I'm moving very quickly. So I work at a private law firm in Buckhead, Georgia.
Awesome. Go ahead, Brittany.
Hi, everybody. My name is Brittany K Anderson, and I am the proud mama to a beautiful and talented 11-year-old. I'm also a former Florida Bar student governor. I'm a law student mentor, and I currently do corporate commercial work in-house for a tech company, and I'll be getting sworn in here in August, a couple weeks now. I'm also one of the managing founders of a new nonprofit called Pipeline to Purpose, which is geared towards advocating equality and providing opportunities for pre-law and law students.
Awesome.
So hey everybody, I'm Randi. I'm the proud owner of Networking for Law Students LLC. We have a website and we have a new YouTube channel. I just passed the bar actually, and so I'm waiting to be admitted, hopefully August. But they're kind of slow. Yeah. But so I went to, when I was in law school, I was in the 2-year honors accelerated program, and when I was also in law school, I was the national Black Law Students Association as the chief of staff, the parliamentarian, and again now I serve as the National Bar Association Region 2 chief of staff.
Awesome. All right. And I didn't even notice, I noticed that I didn't even tell you all where I went to law school or what BBFB was. So I went to the University of Florida for undergrad, go Gators. I went to the University of Georgia for law school, go Dogs. So I am a Bull Gator. As far as BBFB, Becoming Black Female Barristers, what is that? BBFB, or Becoming Black Female Barristers, is a social platform that I created whereby so current and aspiring law students can sort of interface with licensed attorneys and sort of develop relationships, mentorship, kind of share tips, advice, goals, things for success, things of that nature. Just an opportunity for us to just develop authentic community and speak with one another and get to know one another, because this is a very rare opportunity where attorneys kind of get a chance to kind of talk to law students outside of just maybe a platform or a forum or some type of event. So I've created this platform to give us an opportunity to do just that and allow people to sort of leverage relationships with actually licensed attorneys. So that is why we're here. So without further ado, I'm going to get into some of our questions. We have a lot of questions tonight. There's also an opportunity for you all to ask questions in the chat. So I've already told the ladies that I talk a lot. I may not see your questions. They may see it. So if they see your question, they will certainly let me know that your question is there. But I do want to start out with some of the common misconceptions about networking. So ladies, what would you all say are some of the common misconceptions about networking, particularly in the Black community? And Randi, I'll start with you.
There are so many, but I'll limit myself to 3. The first misconception is that there's an immediate return on your investment while networking. Networking is a long game. Think of networking like the stock market. You wouldn't just invest your money in a stock on Monday and then immediately pull it out on Tuesday. Sometimes the people you meet won't play a role in your life for weeks, months, or even years after you meet them. The second misconception, and it's not unique to the members of the Black community, more so related to being a millennial. I'm a millennial too, so I can talk about it. Let's just be honest. Millennials tend to have a sense of entitlement, that people have to help me. They have to have me in their network. It's a very self-centered focus. Networking is about relationships. The legal field is about relationships. That's how people get clients, opportunities, and other business. No one has to help you. Even though you may be deserving, even though you may be accomplished, no one has to have you in their network. So how do you bring value to them? It's not just about you inartfully, directly asking for a job or another opportunity. But to give you a quick example, why should Brittany have me in her network? Why should she? Because I'm so great? Well, I need to show and prove how I bring value to her. So because of this webinar, maybe many years from now, Brittany's the president of a bar association and she wants to do a webinar on networking. And she'll think, Randi did a good job on that before. I'm gonna bring her in. This third misconception, it saddens me to say, but it is unique to the Black community, is that some people think that joining a Black organization either can't help you or even worse, can hinder you from networking in the larger legal culture. Just speaking from my experience, it's been the opposite. The individuals in those organizations can nurture you, and they could also give you a kick in the pants if that's what you need. They're invested in your success.
Right. That's the only thing that we're networking for, is because we want a job. And having practiced for almost 4 years now, networking is so much bigger than that. There's so many things that you don't learn in law school, particularly how to practice law. So being able to tap into my personal network of attorneys who have been practicing a little longer than me, and even attorneys who haven't, but maybe they have a little more experience in a certain area, has been a godsend. And kind of touching on what Randi said, networking is not just a a reach out one time and then you never talk to that person again. It's all about developing relationships. So you would feel some type of way if someone only came to you when they needed something, right? Whether that's a friend or a romantic relationship, you have to treat networking the same way. People want to feel as though they're appreciated and they're valued. So when we're talking about networking and kind of tapping into different resources, you want to make sure you don't have to email or call all the time, but you do want to make sure that you're following up and that you're creating genuine relationships with people. And that is where people are going to be able to vouch for you if you do need a job or you do need an opportunity. Even if it's not necessarily in the legal field, you might be trying to do something outside of the practice of law. You never know what resources that person has for you. Lastly, I think particularly for law students, or those that are beginning their journey into law school that will be starting in the next month or so, it's very important for them to remember that networking starts right now. Your legal career starts now, because the people that you are in law school with are going to be your first line of defense. They're going to be your first referrals. They're going to be your first references. So the way that you treat people now is going to definitely shape the rest of your legal career. So don't take that for granted.
You know, that's so important because we talk about what these misconceptions are, right? What are these sort of ways of thinking that people have that sort of stop them from actually networking or actually doing it successfully? So I kind of want to ask you, Lashawn, what are some of those barriers to networking that you've seen that you feel like sort of, I guess, prohibit us from kind of building a strategic network?
I think when it comes to networking and some of the barriers, a lot of it comes within ourselves. So for example, you go to a networking event and there's thousands, or sometimes not thousands, but there's hundreds of people there. And, you're starting to freak out. You don't really know what to do. You don't really know who to approach. What do you say? And it's really just about mindset. That's one of the main things I would say. It's really about your mindset and knowing that at the end of the day, yes, you may be in a room full of attorneys or judges or, other prominent figures in the legal community, but these are still just people. Some of them may feel like they're like the second coming of Christ, and, some of them may feel like they have these godlike personalities, but these are still just regular people. They just so happen to be in a position that you want to be in. But once you can kind of get over the fact that, okay, this is a regular person that I'm talking to, that kind of takes the nerves out. And that's really a lot of it. Just when it comes to networking, it doesn't have to be so stiff. It doesn't have to be this dry conversation. Well, I go to such and such law school. I graduated at such and such year, and I'm in this organization. It could be a lot more just genuine conversation. There are times where you can kind of just go up to someone and maybe they're wearing a tie and it has, maybe they're from UF and they're wearing an orange and blue tie and it has the Gators all over it, something like that. If you go to UF and you're kind of just like you're kind of networking with them, something like that, that's perfectly fine. Or you're kind of just asking like, oh, you went to UF? I went to UF too. And, I was this, I was that. Or, it could even be something as simple as, oh, I noticed that you were wearing such and such thing on you, whether it's an article of clothing or something. And people enjoy that light conversation. Of course, every now and then, you're going to come across those people who are not so friendly, and you'll be able to pick up on that very, very quickly. I think when it comes to networking, sometimes people figure like, well, what's the point? Why do I even really need a network? Why can't I just email them or call them? Because there are certain things when it comes to certain nuances, facial expressions, you can't see that in the email. So if you are telling someone, oh yeah, I'm a first year in law school and, things are really tough, but I'm really kind of just chugging along. If someone is sending you an email that says, oh, congratulations, that's great. Or someone could be on the phone with you and they're just like, oh, well, congratulations on your first year of law school. And they're not really, it's not really genuine. They don't really care very much. And it's different versus when you can kind of make that eye contact, see face to face. Is this a genuine person? Is this someone that I really want to get to know more of? And if so, even if it's an area of law that you're not really interested in, they may know other people that are in that area. So really just mindset, getting out of the mindset of, oh my gosh, I'm this lowly I'm like this peasant and among all these kings and queens. No, it's really not that deep. We're all, whether we're attorneys, whether we're judges, whether we're other legal professionals, at the end of the day, we're still people. So just being able to come to someone and be authentic, that's going to take you a lot further, in my opinion.
Love it. All right. And then Brittany, so I'm going to end out this question with you. What would you say, sort of in your experience, are some of like the barriers to networking, particularly within our community?
I would probably say fear and not knowing who to network with. Because we don't necessarily have those tools ingrained in us whenever we either apply to law schools or, you know, are at school and it's our first, second year, we don't know who to talk to. We don't know who to network with. We don't necessarily know, okay, well, maybe I should join this group because this is a great group that will give me some visibility. So I think being able to talk to people now and while you're still thinking about the schools you're applying to, and even in your first and second year, making sure you attend networking events like this, or just talking to new attorneys or people who have already been in law school and asking, hey, what are some of the groups that I should join that will give me some visibility so that I can have a wider group of attorneys and legal professionals that I should be able to, you know, discuss and talk about my career with.
Okay, awesome. All right, so let me sort of take that, I guess, in another direction. So with Randi, I want to ask you, when it comes to sort of just going to networking events, attending networking events, do you find that it's important for aspiring attorneys to attend legal and non-legal networking events? Like, how important do you all think that it is to network with people that are not within your actual field of interest? And I'll start with you, Randi.
I think it's absolutely important for law students to network both inside the legal field and outside of it, because you never know where your lead is going to come from. You never know that someone else who's outside of I even never, let me give you an example to illustrate my point. I was speaking with the custodial staff at an event, and they gave me a lead about, this is when I was a paralegal, they gave me a lead about somebody who was hiring, and I got a job for 2 years out of it. So it doesn't have to be just an attorney that knows about something or a paralegal. It could be anybody. And it was a legal networking event that I'm talking about, but it really was the custodial staff that told me about it.
That's good. What about you, Danielle? What do you think?
I echo the same thing. I think that it's extremely important to network outside of just the legal field, especially since when you're networking at a legal event or where there are a lot of attorneys, if it's a situation where it's their job versus yours, you probably won't get a referral there, right? Because we're all kind of competing for the same spot. But say, you know, some people do decide that they want to kind of hang their shingle after they graduate law school. They want to go out and start their own firm. It's really, really important for you to get yourself in the space to then start building clientele, right? So it's not necessarily going to be at a networking event with only lawyers, because those lawyers probably won't be your clients. But for instance, if you know that you want to do business law and you want to represent entrepreneurs, you want to go to events where you're going to find those people and say, you know, hey, these are the services that I offer, and those are going to be your potential client base. As well as I know we talk about like joining sections of like the Florida Bar or the American Bar Association that are specific to the type of law you want to practice. But what's also good is joining organizations that cater to that as well. So another example, if you are a business owner or you want to do business law, you kind of want to get in the room with people who own their own businesses, start to go to some of those workshops and learn kind of like that grunt work of what goes into starting and maintaining a business. That way you're better able to serve your clients later. You really don't know where your opportunities are going to come from. So why not kind of spread your net wide so that the opportunities come to you versus you always having to seek things out. That's kind of my opinion on it.
Gotcha. All right, ladies. So let's sort of transition now and let's actually put our participants in this networking room, right? So say, for instance, we got a networking event that's coming up. Networking event is at 6:30. We walk in the room and the first thing we do is we're just looking around. You're trying to find one of your friends or trying to find someone that you know. Pretty much you're probably sitting there like a deer in headlights. There's so many people, right? I mean, it's uncomfortable. It's nerve-wracking. You don't know what to say. So Lashawn, I'm going to go to you. All right. So if you are at a networking event, you've arrived, you're now looking like a deer in headlights. What's the first thing you should do? What should you do?
So the first thing that I want to do is I kind of want to feel the room out. I kind of want to feel the room out, kind of, look around and kind of see, do I see any familiar faces? If not, that's fine, because for the most part, you probably won't, unless it was like, something that was organized by your law school, or if you came with a friend. So for the most part, you probably won't see anyone that you recognize. So I'll kind of like feel the room around, and you can kind of see certain people's facial expressions. The people who they're talking to other people and they're kind of smiling, those are the ones that you're kind of like, okay, I think I can kind of approach them. But the ones that they're kind of just like this, and they're really not, like, they have that, like, do not even
Don't approach me, don't talk to me.
right, like, I don't even want to be here, so I definitely don't want you to be here. Like, those are the kind of people I really don't want to come up to, because I don't want you to break my heart. Like, I don't want to put myself in that position. But I will finesse my way through a conversation. It doesn't matter if you're a complete stranger. It doesn't matter if I've never even met you before in my life. I will finesse my way into a whole conversation with you, where by the time we're done talking, I have your business card, we're laughing, and I'm kind of just like, yes, in my head, like, all right, I got this. Let me give you an example. So if I'm kind of just trying to figure out, like, okay, who would I talk to? What do I do? I may usually at those networking events, there's always liquor, or there's always like a bar or something. There may be like light refreshments, like food, maybe like a small little buffet. I'll go over to the bar section. I'll get a drink. I don't get an alcoholic drink because I want to make sure that I have my wits about me and I don't put myself in like a compromising situation. But if you want to, it's fine. It's not a big deal. So I'll go to the bar or whatever. I might grab a drink. And if I already see someone at the bar, then I'll kind of just like, start up a light conversation with them. It's like, oh, hey, how you doing? Or whatever. Like, are there any drinks that you recommend? Pretending like I care, but I don't, and like, are there drinks that you recommend or whatever? And then kind of get the conversation flowing there. That's one way. You could also, if there's like a buffet or something, kind of just like going into the buffet line when you see other people actively there. And people always talk in a buffet line, whether it's like a light joke, whether it's like oh, do you know what that is? That looks delicious. Yeah, it does. Oh yeah, it sounds like something that, looks like something my mom would make. Oh, where's your mom from? Conversation started. So things like that, where it's like, it doesn't necessarily have to be such a stiff, dry introduction. It could be anything. Sometimes you're in the bathroom and you're in the ladies' room, or you're in the men's room and you're in the bathroom and someone's there and someone's like, oh, I love your hair, or I love your purse, or I love your whatever. Start a conversation there. So really just kind of being able to not be so tense about it, be more relaxed about it, and find little opportunities. It doesn't have to be a situation where, you make it awkward or anything like that. Just like I said, with the buffet example, you're going and you're getting food, you're talking up with someone. By the time you get to the end of the buffet line, you could just, probably say something like, oh, where are you sitting? Would you mind if I joined you? You join them at the table. Now you've opened it up. So now there's 5 or 6 other attorneys or whatever, where you're speaking with them and everything. So all this started because you went to get some macaroni. You know what I mean? So it's a very simple situation.
Got it. All right. So Lashawn kind of said that she finds, or she sort of makes herself comfortable by sort of finding out who looks friendly, who she can sort of approach and talk to. What about you, Brittany? What do you do when you first walk into a networking event? You're probably looking like a deer in headlights. What's the first thing that you do?
Follow Lashawn, because I've seen her in action. She can get you a husband, a job, a new house. No, but she actually touched on pretty much everything. I think the first thing I do is to go to the bar, because everybody is getting a drink, whether it is alcohol, soda, water, whatever the case may be. There's always someone there. And I'm like, okay, where's the bar? Got it. People are there. And even for introverts, I know Joanna, she asked a question, what are some tips for introverts? And this also plays into that. If you're not very outgoing, or if you're just a little tense or timid, great place to start a conversation at the bar. Oh, what are you drinking? Oh, I like red wine. What kind do you have? Very, very simple, very, very easy. Nothing, too high pressure to get you, just conversation starter.
Okay. Awesome. So I'm going to jump in here because I think I have just something, I guess, a little bit of a different perspective to add. So for me, when I first walk into a room, I think the first thing that I focus on is my mindset. I kind of fix my mind to think a certain way and to feel a certain way. So immediately upon walking in the room, the first thing I say to myself, and you all, this may sound a little cocky, tell myself this, I say, Ashley, you are the most powerful woman in this room. And the reason why I do that is because that sort of gets me into the right mindset to say, okay, I'm not thinking about who doesn't want to talk to me, because in my head, everybody wants to talk to me. I'm not thinking about, okay, well, who's having a bad day, because in my head, if you're here, you want to talk. You're here to network, and you're here to, I mean, we're not here to play. We're here to work. You know, we're here to sort of make relationships or create relationships. We're here to talk business. That's why we're here. So I would say one thing that I do is that I sort of remind myself of who I am, that I am powerful, that I'm here for a reason, and that I'm not here to sort of, you know, to play around. I'm here to sort of kind of accomplish whatever goal that I have in mind. And I got that from a book that I read. It's called The Most Powerful Woman in the World Is You, and it's by Lydia. I mean, it's a major key. Okay, so like definitely get that book, because it's sort of going to put you in the right mindset that you need to be in when you're walking in a room full of people that may or may not look like you. All right. So
Ashley, can you drop that in the chat?
Yeah,
because I would like to buy that book.
Yes, you all, I'm dropping it now. So it's Lydia Fenet, and it's called The Most Powerful Woman in the, in the World.
But Ashley, if I could add to that, one thing that I do when I go to a networking reception is usually networking receptions in bar associations especially follow another event. So I talk about that event. I talk about, hey, did how did you agree with that speaker or something like that? Or isn't that great? Isn't that a great tip or something like that? And that gets me in the door into the conversation. The other thing is, and I answered it in the Q&A, on my website, I have a little cheat sheet for you guys, almost. You should know the top news stories in sports, politics, things like that, in entertainment. And in there, in my website, on the bottom of it has a news ticker that's updated every single day. So if you're at a networking event, you can kind of have your cell phone out, and you kind of on your way there, a little cheat sheet. Okay, this is what's going on. Oh, that was the score in that game. Oh, okay, and just have it there, right there for you. I want to do that for everybody, and it's free, guys, free. I want to do that for you just so you have like a little cheat sheet and you feel like somebody has your back in this networking reception.
And if I could add on to what Randi said, because Randi made a very, very good point about making sure that you keep up with the news. You know, I get it. You know, we have busy lives. You know, we're busy with law school, with our personal lives and anything else. So, you know, it's not like you have to be watching, you know, the news all the time, 24/7. But even if it's something where you just know the headline, where you just saw a headline, you can still finesse your way through a conversation where you can just be like, oh, so, you know, I heard that the president just passed, you know, such and such rule. I wanted to know what your thoughts on it. You may not have any idea about that bill. You may not even read the article or anything of that. But the fact that you know the headline, now you can kind of bring that up and kind of find out, you know, what are your thoughts on it? And then now you can kind of put your own 2 cents in. Something else that Ashley said that I wanted to add. Unfortunately, sometimes when you go to networking events, there are some people that I don't understand for the life of me why they're there, but they just come and they don't want to talk to anyone. You know, they come and they just want to, I guess, just consume the free alcohol, or maybe they're there because their job told them to be there, or, you know, whatever the case may be, but they're just it's just negative energy, and you could tell that they just don't want to be there. So here's what I will say. If you find yourself talking to someone, or you approach someone and you feel like they're just being very, very short with you, where you're kind of just trying to get to know them and, you know, see how they are, and, you know, talk to them about yourself, talk to them about, you know, who they are, and they're kind of just like, yeah, sure, okay. And they're kind of just like looking around, they're looking at their phone, they're looking at their watch. You know, they just want to get out of there. Do not subject yourself to that. Don't subject yourself to disrespect. It doesn't matter what anyone's position is, whether they're a lawyer, judge, it really doesn't matter what their position is. Don't ever let anyone disrespect you at a networking event, or at any event for that matter. Never let anyone talk down to you, belittle you, or say like, oh, you're a law student, how cute. Oh, you're 20-something, how cute. No, we're not doing that. Do not let anyone disrespect you like that. Because at the end of the day, you're still an adult. You still worked hard to get to the position that you're in. You're still in the same room that they're in. So you deserve the same kind of respect that they deserve. So if you find yourself in a situation where you started a conversation with someone, and unfortunately that person is just being very rude or very dry, or they seem very disinterested, there are ways to respectfully kind of just bow out of the conversation. Just, okay, well, so nice to meet you. You have a great day. Be blessed. Walk off, talk to someone else. But don't feel, just because you didn't have a positive experience with one person doesn't mean that everyone's like that. So don't think that, oh, okay, well, this person's dry and rude, so I should just go home. No, that may just be them. But still give everyone else a chance, because you never know. They could be having a bad day. Something could have happened, in their personal life, or they could just be one of those people who's just negative. But still give other people a chance, and definitely don't let that drag you down.
Gotcha. All right, cool. Thank you for that, Lashawn. Let me do this. So I'm seeing some questions that are coming in the chat. So for all of the attendees that are in the chat, what will happen is, and I see that we got some panelists are actually answering your questions, but we actually do want to answer them live. So what I'll do is that periodically we'll kind of look in the chat to address some of your questions. And for this question, I'm going to go to Danny. We have a question from Jessica Walker, and Jessica wanted to know, she says, she wanted to know, how do you prepare before the event? Like, what do you wear? Kind of what are the things that you're thinking about? See that Randi already answered her, Brittany answered her, but Danny, I want to know, how do you prepare before the event?
As far as like outside of dress, I guess I don't really prepare for a networking event per se. I would say I was a little extra in law school. So I had my own business cards in law school. I got my little $30 Vistaprint business cards because I felt like I needed to look the part and act the part to get the part that I wanted. So I always had business cards on hand when I was networking as a law student. I definitely have them on hand now as an attorney because you don't necessarily want to be writing your number or your email on a piece of paper that might get lost, but a business card is very easy to kind of put in your wallet or stick in your purse, and it gives a good impression. I think it makes people think of you seriously and think that you take, what you're doing seriously. As far as dress, I would kind of agree with the comments that I've already made in the chat. I try to steer more towards business casual. But it kind of depends because sometimes networking events are just that they're events on their own, or sometimes you'll have a networking portion of another event. So you kind of want to see. I would say, for instance, if you're going to a networking event for maybe like your state's bar association, like the Florida bar, the Georgia bar, or something like that, you definitely want to go more business casual because you will be outside of us, right? So you kind of want to make sure that you're giving not like stoic kind of vibes, but you want to make sure that you still look appropriate. Some events, I would say maybe even like casual dressy. So heels and jeans. Try not to do crop tops, something too lacy or racy. You don't want to do that. You want to make sure the attention is on you because as we stated before, you want to give your best impression and you want people to take you seriously. But I mean, I think business casual is the way to go, honestly. You can't really go wrong with business casual.
Okay, and I think that's amazing. Like, same thing, kind of what Danielle was saying, making sure that you're dressing the part, making sure that you're looking the part. I think what's most important, though, is to make sure that you understand that you are sort of selling your brand. You're selling you, you're selling yourself as yourself. You have a brand that you've developed or that you start developing even in law school. So even as an attorney, when I go to a networking event, I'm still maintaining, or I still maintain the same brand that I built even as a law student, where I always make sure that I am very cognizant of what I look like, of what I'm wearing. I don't just get up and throw on the first thing that I see in my closet. I am very particular about what I wear, my accessories, what I look like, my makeup, my hair, my lipstick. And the reason why I say that is because people watch you. People are watching you, and they're making judgments about you. That's just the thing. As human beings, we make judgments, and we we remember people, you know, based on the little things, based on them just being able to kind of throw together a nice shoe with a dress. You know, that's something that we sort of remember. So I always like to say too, when you are going to a networking event, take it seriously. It's not just something that you're just going just to talk to people, but you are going to sort of sell yourself as yourself and to help other people, you know, understand what your brand is and why you're there. All right. So I will go on to some of our other questions. I think we kind of talked about this a little bit, but I want to go, I guess, a little bit more in depth about conversation starters. I know Randi talked about some resources that she has with her organization that she has for free. I know Lashawn kind of talked about things that she would say kind of starting out in the buffet line or starting out in the drink line. But what are some of your favorite conversation starters that you feel like work every time, no matter what type of networking event that you're at? And what are they? Share them with us. Brittany, you want to start?
I would probably say the bar. I've even started a conversation in Target with a lady, and I had on my Barbary shirt. She was like, "Oh my God, I don't even want to remember those days." And I was like, "Yes, this is great." So the bar, the bar, the bar, the bar, whether you're prepping for it, whether it's 3 years ahead of you, whether you just took it, whether you're waiting on your results, whatever the case may be, the bar is something that everybody can connect with. Everybody has a story, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. That's a conversation starter, and it can get you in the door.
Okay. What about you, Lashawn? Any other ones outside of the ones that you said?
I would say as far as conversation starters, I think depending on where exactly the event is, I know for me, something that always worked was kind of like, where are you from? Because usually I would go to events so for me, I went to law school in Florida. So if I would go to, so like, for example, the state bar, the Florida bar, they always had an annual event. It was always over the summer. It was in June. And then they had like a smaller one in January. But the main annual event in June, you know, it was always like in Central Florida, somewhere around there. So I would always ask people, you know, oh, where are you from? And for the most part, I knew people were going to say South Florida, and because I'm from South Florida. So, you know, that was always a talking point for me, like, oh, you're from Miami. What part of Miami? Or you're from Broward. Okay, what part? Oh, you went to this high school? I went to that high school, blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, remember that football game? You know, so just always being able to, you know, where are you from? You never know. Sometimes it could be something where it's like, oh, yeah, you know, someone says they're from Jersey. You have an aunt in New Jersey. Or someone says, you know, they're from Utah. Oh, my friend lives in Utah. Oh, okay. People love to talk about where they're from. They love to talk about where they're from, you know, because it brings a more sentimental nature. It brings a more, kind of takes them back, puts them in a good place, hopefully. Hopefully puts them in a good place where they can remember, you know, their upbringing, or, you know, maybe their favorite food there, or, you know, that one Chinese spot in the corner that they loved, or, you know, whatever the case may be. It always tends to be a very warm conversation, just asking someone, you know, where are you from?
I think that's an important thing to sort of talk about, because I think many times, and maybe some of the attendees may say, oh, I got to talk about something related to law. And I think what Lashawn touched on is so important, that we may be lawyers. Lawyering is what I do. That's not all that I am, right? I have a lot of other projects and a lot of other things that I'm doing, a lot of other things that interest me. And for me personally, I may remember, yeah, I know that, you know, I know Danny, you know, I know that she's a lawyer. She's an amazing lawyer. She practices in Orlando, but Danny and I met through NLC. So if somebody's like, oh yeah, like, what about Danny? Yeah, Danny's dope. Like, we're in Perkins together. Like, she was in NLC. But notice that the things that stick out to me the most about Danny, obviously knowing that, yes, she's an amazing attorney, but I'm also aware of Danny's interests and things that she likes to do, things of that nature. So I think that that's important when you're at a networking event. Yes, you are an attorney, but what else do you do? That's so important, to sort of be well-rounded. It's important for us as attorneys to be well-rounded and to be able to kind of talk about other things that interest us. And so keep that in mind too when you're trying to build these relationships with people, some of the other talking points that may be outside of the law. Randi, I'm going to jump to you too, because I want to hear what you have to say. What are some of your go-to talking points or conversation starters?
Okay. Well, before I get to that, I just want to jump on one thing. One thing that you don't ask is, you can ask where somebody's from, but don't ask what's your nationality. Some people really cannot stand that question and really get offended. And it's almost like you're saying, I don't belong here because I'm black, or because of whatever nationality they are. So you want to make sure that you're not being offensive to someone. So don't ask that question. People have asked me that question before. I'm fine with that question, but most people aren't. Most people really take that offensively. So watch out for that. What I do is I talk about the event that preceded it. I talk about newsworthy things with my little cheat sheet on my website. I also talk about the bar. I do talk about politics, but with politics it's tricky. You can't always talk about it. It depends on the area that you're in. It depends on who's there, because you don't know if somebody's conservative and you're more liberal. So you want to stay clear of that unless you really have nothing else to talk about. And then if you see something like that, like something political, and you see it's going in a different direction, you might want to pivot to something else.
Okay, like that. All right. So then let's sort of talk about building, I guess, our dream network. Like who should we include as attorneys or as aspiring attorneys, law students? Who should we include, I guess, within our network? What type of individuals, I guess, do we need to think about when we're talking about trying to create this dream network? Let's see, who I want to start with? Danny, you want to start?
Sure. So for me, I wanted to make sure that I had 3 different types of people in my immediate network. So these are people that I actually wanted to kind of be my mentors. Number 1, I looked for someone who was doing what I ultimately want to do. Like, if I get this, I will work until I die and be happy, like this position. I wanted that person because that person can speak to their journey to that dream position and kind of help to guide me in that direction. 2, I wanted someone who was a little closer to me in years of practice. So maybe someone who was in their first 5 years. So that way they can speak to the immediate pitfalls and the things that they did. They're a little more relatable than someone who may be a little older that's in my dream position. So they can kind of help me through navigating the first 5 years of practice, because it's rough out here for the first 5 years. And then lastly, I wanted someone who wasn't necessarily in the legal field, but just someone that I admired as far as their work ethic, the things that they were doing in the community, because I'm very big on volunteerism and giving back, especially as attorneys or people in the legal profession. But I wanted someone who was unrelated to the law to be a little more of, I guess, a neutral type of mentor, but ultimately someone that I would look up to. Those were my top 3 dream network. I'm still working on some of them, right? So I have my mentor who's within the first 5 years. I have my mentor who is not in the legal field, but I'm still trying to figure out what is going to be the ideal end game for me with practice. So I don't have that person yet. But that's kind of my dream network. But networking since I became an attorney has been above and beyond. Ashley, you pointed out that we met through New Leaders Council, which is not legal related, but we happen to be attorneys in it. So we met amazing people. New Leaders Council is a 501c3 organization that builds progressive leaders within the community, the new generation of progressive leaders. So we met people who had done campaigns, who were running for political office, who are currently running for political office, people who wanted to start their own nonprofit organizations. So just based off of being affiliated with that organization, it opened up my network nationally. And so I think that seeking out some of those opportunities too will definitely diversify your network and enrich your network and help you to kind of figure out what you want to do in the legal field too.
I love it. I love it. I love that you touched on how important it is to build a network outside of the legal community. I think even as a law student, for me, my focus was on, let me find this lawyer's, let me get with this lawyer. I want their contact information. Okay, let me get with this lawyer. It was all about trying to find legal mentors when it's so important. I mean, your career and your personal and professional development is going to expand beyond the legal profession. And so it's so important for you to find mentors that are going to fit different areas of your life. For me, I am a very spiritual person. My relationship with Christ is extremely important to me. So I make sure that I have a spiritual mentor. I have someone that's going to help me with my professional development, my personal development, fitness, things that are important to me, different areas of my life that are important to me, family, kids, those things. So I make sure that I find mentors that are going to be able to help me in the different areas of my life. What about you, Randi? What do you think are some things to kind of keep in mind when you're developing your dream network?
I think that you should network with everybody, not just the partner at the law firm. You need to network with the associate at that law firm. You need to talk to the paralegal with that law firm or something like that. You need to also expand it by through volunteering, so people can see your work ethic. People can see what you're doing. Volunteer with a bar association. Bar associations are always looking for volunteers to take attendance at CLEs or something like that. You want to make sure that you do things where you show them your value, not just trying to get value from other people. I think also, basically, I just think that you should network with absolutely everybody and not be so centered on getting that attorney. A lot of law students do that. A lot of pre-law students do that. And a lot of people try to get where the money is. And you don't want to necessarily go for that famous attorney or for that big law attorney. You want to talk to absolutely everybody at a networking event.
Awesome. All right. Let me go on to transition to ask about how should we decide what type of events we should attend? So, I mean, there's so many different, particularly in the midst of COVID. I know somebody talked about with Zoom networking events, and there's so many different events that are out there, but how do you all decide which events you want to attend? Which events are sort of worth your while? How do you decide? Lashawn?
I would say events that they kind of pique my interest. So if I know that I'm interested in criminal law, I would probably want to be, so for example, I was part of an American Inns of Court. If you don't know what that is, trying to think of the best way to describe it. An American Inns of Court, it's like an organization. You meet every month, and it's like a big, huge networking opportunity, I guess I would say. And what it is, it's kind of like CLEs, and I believe it actually is CLEs, but I wasn't getting them because I was in law school. And every meeting they would do a presentation on a certain topic. So if it's criminal law, we've done presentations on drone law, we've done presentations on criminal reform, just criminal justice reform, and just different things. So something like an American Inns of Court, and they have them for different areas. They have it for criminal law, they have it for family law, they have it for intellectual property, entertainment law. So really trying to find something in the area that you're interested in. Or sometimes it may be something that you may not necessarily have to have experience in it, but maybe it's something where it's like, okay, well, this sounds like something interesting, or this sounds like, or the speaker. If you know who the speaker is going to be, if there's going to be a panel and you know who the speaker is going to be and you're very interested in that person, let's say it's an author or whatever the case may be, and they're going to be attending that event, go to the event, see if you can, see what you could do. Maybe you could find like-minded people who are also interested in that same speaker as well. And now that may be more networking opportunities for you.
Awesome. What about you, Brittany? How do you kind of decide, how do you maneuver through all these opportunities for networking events? How do you decide which ones you want to go to and which ones you're kind of maybe not?
Really, I base it off of my short-term and my long-term goals. If in the short term I'm trying to figure out what area of law I want to practice in, I go to just a bunch of different little ones maybe I don't like that, because it helps you kind of decide, I don't like family law, I don't want to be in family law, so I won't look for family law jobs. Or yes, I do like criminal law. This is something that I would like to, learn a little bit more about. Let me try and network with people that way. But as far as my long-term goals, I try to find networking events that help cultivate my relationships with people to where I can learn more, just get a deeper understanding about what it is that I'm trying to do. For example, right now I'm trying to learn how to start a mobile firm and base the firm in specific with a specific practice area, but that's not something that can happen overnight. That's definitely not a short-term goal. So I try to attend events that help foster that, and attend them with attorneys who've been doing solos or who are solos for, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years, who have been through those struggles, who can help me out and tell me, hey, this is what you should be doing, or this is, these are the pitfalls that I've been through. And as far as what I'm interested in, again, I think Lashawn actually was correct in picking things that you're interested in, but I don't know necessarily how many law students actually know what it is that they want to get into. So for them, I would say just pick a variety of events that you think you might be interested in, because you never know. Like, you honestly never know. Something could, pop out of the sky. Oh, I never knew that tech law was fun. I never knew that tax law was interesting. It's not, but I'm just saying,
But you
you
never
might
know.
like it. Exactly. You might like it. So that might be on your short-term goals. Let me see what I actually want to do, and let me see what I might want to, focus on. So it's definitely aligned with short-term and long-term goals.
Got it. All right. So I want to jump to a question that is it Shraddha? Miss Patel? She asked an amazing question. And it actually was the next question I was about to ask. So I definitely want to answer it. She wanted to know, what are some tips that we have for maintaining and building relationships after the initial networking or introductory conversation? What are some tips? Because I know a lot of times we'll grab a bunch of business cards. We'll have like 10, 15 business cards, and we don't follow up with anybody. You just got cards just to have them. So what are some tips for kind of following up with the relationships that you just built during the networking time? And whoever wants to jump on this one first.
I would definitely say, I mean, just like Brittany said in the chat, following up is key. Ashley said the same thing too. There's different ways that you can follow up. You could do it by email. You could do it by it. Now, when it comes to following up, I would try to, when you have a business card. So for me, sometimes, let's say, for example, if I go to a networking event and if I'm talking to someone, and if I'm like really feeling this person, and they give me their business card, then what I would do is, obviously not in front of them, but probably when I get back to my car, I would write notes on the back of my business cards. Because just like Ashley said, if you have like 10, 15 business cards, you're going to forget, which one is John, who's John, who's Jane Doe, you're going to forget that. So I'll write notes on the back of the business card, like, oh, this person was from Miami. This is the one who said, she was a mother of triplets. This is the one who said, whatever. And I'll probably put like little stars. So I'm like, if I'm really, really feeling that person, I'll make some type of notification. So then that way, if I know that I really, really want to talk more to this person, I'm probably not going to send them an email, to be honest. I'll send an email first, but I want to talk to them in person now. I want to get them out of the networking environment where they're around a whole bunch of people. And now I want to send them an email and say, hey, would it be possible for me to take you out for coffee? I won't say it like that. I'm not going to say, hey, but, kind of asking them, would it be possible for me to take you out for coffee or something like that? Because now I want to have more of an in-depth one-on-one conversation with you. If it was something where, sometimes people just pass out their business card just to do it. They'll just pass it out, not so much that they want to connect with you. It's kind of just like, hey, here's my card, get out of my face kind of situation. Those kind of people, I will still reach out, I'll still send them an email just because, maybe they weren't in the best mood, or maybe, they were kind of having a rough day. And sometimes by me sending them an email, they'll kind of be like, oh, okay, I remember her, she was very nice or whatever, and I'll kind of get more of a warmer response at that point. But I'll still send them an email and say, thank you so much, it was so great meeting with you, blah, 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 blah. And I'll mention some of the things that we spoke about, just so they're not just like, who's this random black chick, like, I don't know, like, who, Lashawn, who? So they can kind of just remember, like, oh, these are the things that we spoke about. Or if they told me something, I'll make sure to kind of like bring that up in the email, or I'll look them up. I'll look them up on LinkedIn. I'll see, have they published something recently? Did they do a new blog post, or did they do whatever? And those are kind of my ways of following up with them and kind of keeping up to date, saying like, oh, hey, I saw that you wrote this blog about whatever. I thought the blog was great, and, here's my feedback about it. And they love that. They'll love, they're like, oh, someone's reading my blog post, or someone is kind of like keeping up to date. They're doing their homework. They didn't just send me a generic, so nice to meet you, thank you so much, kind regards, Lashawn McQueen. They kind of like personalize it. And attorneys, judges, anybody in the legal field, they like to know that things are personalized and it wasn't just a copy and paste. You're sending this to everybody that you have business cards to.
What about you, Danielle? Sort of, what are some tips that you kind of have to help you maintain relationships with the people that you meet at networking events?
Well, I like to utilize LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is an untapped resource in a lot of ways. One of the first things that I do when I go to networking events is that I go home and I add the person on LinkedIn. And I'll send them an in-mail, which is kind of like the mail that you use when you guys are not a connection, to kind of say, hey, don't delete my request. And that is where I'll say, it was great meeting you at, the Paul C. Perkins Bar Association networking event on such and such date. It was great discussing XYZ, kind of a tip that Randi put in there. And that is a tip also too when you are interviewing for jobs, because that kind of shows them that, hey, this person was listening. This is kind of like a hint that they want a relationship that's outside of just surface level, because they remembered something that I said at the event. Mm-hmm. And then once they add me, I kind of stalk. I have no shame. I stalk people, especially if these are connections that I really want to make. I will stalk you. I will find out if you published. Mm-hmm. I've looked at every, job that you have posted. I want to see what jobs you've done in the past. Mm-hmm. What was the job description? Because, you are networking in a way is self-serving, right? So if you are looking to gain like those mentor relationships, especially, you want to kind of see like what was the roadmap to get them where you eventually want to go. So I stalk, and I do exactly what Lashawn said. I kind of include that in my email or my in-mail as well, to let them know that, hey, I'm looking at you. And I want this to be deeper than just a shake hands and talk about the weather at the networking event. Don't be afraid to follow up. Attorneys are very busy, right? So if you are working and you have to, visit clients, or you're doing stuff like this, right? What we're doing is kind of outside of work hours. So sometimes it'll slip your mind, and I'm guilty of it, especially when you're doing it through LinkedIn. I'll check stuff, and then I thought that I responded, I completely forgot. If that happens, don't be dismayed, don't be discouraged. Continue to follow up. At a certain point, you might have to just throw the connection away if they don't respond. But what I like to do is, if they don't respond through LinkedIn, then I'll go back to that business card and I will email the email that they put on the business card, because I feel like I'll probably have a little more luck that way. And then I do set up some type of like secondary interaction. Like Lashawn said, you want to get them outside of the networking arena where their attention is on everyone else, and you want them to kind of focus on you and building that relationship. In the era of COVID, that's going to be a little difficult because we don't know when we'll be able to safely meet in person. But I've been doing like Zoom calls with some of my mentees, who I've been, especially my BBFB mentees. I've been doing Zoom calls with them so we can kind of see each other face to face, and we have that kind of deeper interaction versus texting or being over the phone. So you may have to find some creative ways to network. One thing that was said is go on LinkedIn and see if they're hosting a CLE or if they're going to be a part of a workshop, and join, so you can they get to see that you are on there, right? So you're invested in the relationship, but then you also get to learn more on your own as well, and grow and develop professionally as well through attending some of those workshops. But those are some of the tips that I've used. I find that it works for me, and then you can kind of spin it and make it your own.
Mm-hmm. I would sort of add to that too, because I think we all kind of talked about the importance of following up. I mean, I think we all said that. I think though, one thing that sort of, I guess when I was a law student, was like something that I kind of thought about was, well, there's so many people to follow up with. Like, how do I know who's actually worth my time? And how do I know, who I want to sort of build these relationships with? I've met over 100 people at a networking event, but I really only want to talk to 10. So how can I sort of decide, or how can I keep in contact with everyone? For me, I sort of create a follow-up system. I do have a follow-up system in place. So for some of my mentors, I have some mentors that I know that I talk to every 3 to 4 months. So every 3 to 4 months on my calendar, it's like, go meet with this person for lunch, meet with this person for coffee. It's on my calendar to come up consistently every 3 to 4 months. For some mentors that I have, I may not see them as regularly. Maybe I only see them twice a year. So for every 6 months, it'll come up for me to either, send them an email or get up with them for coffee or so. The reason why I bring that up is because it's up to you to sort of decide, how much time you want to devote to certain relationships. Obviously, the more you pour into a relationship, the more you're going to get out of it, but you're only just one person. So it's up to you to kind of decide which relationships you want to water a little bit more versus those relationships that actually may not require as much watering, and you can kind of check in maybe twice a year or something like that. So it's up to you to kind of decide which relationships should be put in which categories. I do want to follow up with Danielle, and I'm probably going to start with you, Danielle, because you actually touched on networking being self-serving. So that's something that I think is important, because a lot of people shy away from networking because they think it's self-serving. It's a self-serving activity. You're trying to get to know people. You're talking to people to figure out what they can do for you, or what type of resource they could serve for you. So what are some of the things that you all, I guess, what are your thoughts about that? How do you kind of think about that? And what are some ways that you can sort of overcome this self-serving idea as it relates to networking?
I don't necessarily think of it as a negative for it to be self-serving. I do think that, especially becoming a legal professional, becoming an attorney, you want to be able to give back to others, but you recognize that there's so much that you don't know. So really, when you're networking, you're trying to gather the knowledge that you can't really get sitting, in the Socratic circle being cold called in class, right? So I don't think that it's bad to consider it self-serving. And I do think in some ways the relationships can become reciprocal. So perfect example, one of my mentees in law school is now my business partner, right? So she started off kind of leaning on me for guidance through law school, and then obviously through the bar exam as well. And then years later, we are now business partners, and we just started our own podcast. And I gather a lot of knowledge and inspiration and encouragement.
What's the name of the podcast?
The Empowerment Hour. Yes, I'll drop. I think I'll drop the link in there before we get off. But she's actually on here. Shout out to Annie, Annie Blanc, Esquire. But she started off as my mentee in law school, and now we are business partners. So, and I gather a lot of inspiration from her, even as now a colleague in the legal field. So I don't think that it's a negative to think of it as self-serving. I do think, though, that we have to remember that relationships go both ways. So even though we're coming into it with the intention of kind of getting something for ourselves, we have to remember that when we're building genuine relationships, it is still our responsibility to make sure that we're coming off as genuine. That means not necessarily saying the things that you think the person wants to say, or wants you to say, because a lot of times we can read that, right? Sometimes that means allowing them to just talk, because as lawyers, we like to talk. We love to talk about the things that we love and we're passionate about. And just remembering that, like I said earlier, you wouldn't want, or you don't like the feeling of someone who only comes to you when they need something. So making sure that, just like you said, Ashley, that you're checking in, and it's just a genuine check-in, and every time you're meeting with them, it's not like, well, can you help me get this internship, or are you hiring, or da-da-da-da, because people then start to feel as though the only reason why we have this relationship is because you want something out of me. But I don't think that there's any shame in being like, well, networking is really for my enrichment and edification, because it is. That's why we network.
What about you, Brittany? How do you what would you say to sort of talk someone out of that mindset that networking is self-serving, so that's why I don't do it?
I honestly don't think it is self-serving. I have been connecting on LinkedIn for quite a while now, and I recently connected with someone who's an associate at a big law firm, and for her, it may seem like it was self-serving because she wants to go in-house. It was a, hey, I know you work in-house, you're at a tech company, do you mind chatting? And I'm like, great. I want to be able to share my knowledge with her, but she also has something that I want to pull out, even though she didn't know at the time because she was an associate at a big law firm. Currently I'm doing something, a little deck about, the treatment of Black women at big law firms, the pay for Black women at big law firms. So these are, just a push and pull type of thing that I'm trying to speak to her about, while she's also getting the information she needs from me as to, how to work in a big, or how to work in an in-house organization, what it's like, your day to day, how different it is from working in a law firm, the settings and things like that. So like I said, I don't necessarily think it's self-serving, because there's something that that other person that you're reaching out to could be getting from that relationship.
That's good, because basically what you're saying is it's important for us to understand our value proposition. So
Oh, yes.
understanding that you are also valuable as well. When you're networking with someone or you're getting to know someone, understand that you bring value to the relationship and they bring value to the relationship. So it's not just one-sided. So maybe that's sort of the answer, because I know that I hear a lot of people say, oh, well, I'm not really that, fond of networking because I don't want people to feel like I'm trying to get something from them. Understand that it's not just you getting something from them. They're also gaining something from you too. So understanding your own personal value proposition and understanding how you can sort of provide, value to that relationship is important as well. What about you, Randi? Then I'm gonna ask you, Lashawn, as well. What are some of the kind of things you all think about when it comes to self-serving, when it comes to networking? How do you overcome that?
Think of it as self-serving. I think we all have to remember that we were all there once. So when people come up to us that maybe are just starting in the field or a pre-law student, everybody was there. So everybody was in the same place. So I don't see, if somebody comes up to me and asks me a question about the legal field or about networking, about anything, as self-serving. I see it as, again, I'm going to reiterate what everybody else said, that it is a two-way street. Even with your mentor. At first, maybe it doesn't start out that way. Maybe it starts out a little unequal, but eventually you become friends with that person, and you do check in with them to see how they are, their family is. I've been able to give back to my own mentors by telling them information, and certainly with my being part of the National Bar Association, I'm giving them, where the CLEs are and what you need to have for these things. And that for me was like coming full circle.
Okay, and then lastly, I'm gonna end this question with you, Lashawn.
Okay. Yeah. So I would say, I feel like everyone kind of covered it, but I would also say, to add on to what Ashley was saying, do know that you also have value and you also bring something to the table. So I would say before you even go to any of these networking events or before you talk to someone, kind of really just take some time and maybe do like a little bit of soul searching. Think about what kind of value can I bring, whether it's to a law firm, whether it's to, an attorney, or whether it's to, it could even be like a judicial internship or anything like that. What kind of value can I bring? Because when it comes to, when you're networking, or even when it comes time for an interview, whether it's for an internship or for a potential job, that's more than likely going to be one of the questions that they ask you. And you don't want to kind of just give them the generic, I'm hardworking, I'm a hard worker and I'm hard worker. Like you want to be able to give a little bit more than that and know, okay, this is what I bring to the table. Now, if you are, let's say you're meeting with, a top attorney or something, and you feel like, well, what can little old me do? You can find, sometimes there are little things that you can find where maybe it could be a situation where you're like, what, this person, they do good work and they're a great attorney and they're a top attorney, but they have like no social media presence. And you may not know all about the legal community like they may know. You may not know everything that they know as an attorney that's been practicing for 20 plus years or whatever the case may be. But you may be dang good at social media, at Instagram, at Facebook, at Twitter, whatever. So you might be able to reach out to them and say, hey, I noticed that you don't really have any social media presence. I want to know if you wanted me to help you with your marketing, or maybe throw out some strategies to them. And especially if you're a millennial, that'll be something where they'll be like, okay, well, yeah, I do need to be able to reach out and bring some younger clients in. So something like that, that's not a legal skill that you're bringing to the table per se, but that shows that, okay, you know what, this person does show some value, because at the end of the day, law firms, they do want to make money. They want to bring in more clients. So if you're someone who is a pro at hashtags, or you're a pro at Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn, TikTok, whatever other social media platforms it is, that's something that you can also bring to the table and kind of just say, hey, I was checking out your Instagram page, or I noticed that you didn't even have a Twitter page or your Facebook page or whatever, and I wanted to see if maybe you would want some help with that. And now just like that, you know what I'm saying? Like, you had zero legal knowledge, but now that's something that can kind of get you in the door.
Love it. All right, y'all. So what we're going to do is, I know I sort of put it in the chat, but attendees, if you have any last minute questions, go ahead and get those questions in now, because we're actually going to start wrapping up in just a minute here. We probably have a couple more questions to ask, and then we're going to sort of wrap up. So if you have any more questions that you want us to answer for you live, go ahead and put those in the chat now, and we'll sort of rapid fire through those as well. But back to my panelists, I do have maybe two more questions for you. I want to start out with Randi. I want to ask you, Randi, what are some alternative or sort of non-traditional forms of networking outside of what we're used to doing?
So I put this in the chat in reference to the question about shyness. But joining Toastmasters is another way to build your network. Sometimes there are attorneys or other legal professionals there. Another way to network is through volunteering. There are law schools and bar associations that always need someone to volunteer, perhaps at the sign-in table for a CLE, for example. When you do that, you're going to be one of the first ones that interface with the participants. Also, the organization will get to know your work ethic. Join bar associations as a law student. I'm not necessarily saying join my bar association. I'm not going to be self-promoting that way. But people get used to seeing your face and eventually engage in conversation with you. Now, there are other alternative forms of networking, and I put those things in the Overlooked Forms of Networking pamphlet on the networkingforlawstudents.com website. The other thing, something a little bit crazy, is things that outside of the legal field that kind of relate to the legal field. So maybe go to like wine seminars, like educate yourself on different types of wines or different types of cigars. Even if you don't have to smoke it, you don't have to drink it, but just to show your knowledge and just to network with people there.
I love it. All right. What about you, Brittany? That's very interesting. What about you? What would you say are some non-traditional forms of networking we should take into consideration?
I would definitely co-sign on getting into things where you're interested in and volunteering. But I do think that, like Danielle said, LinkedIn is an untapped resource. There are several attorneys that are out there that are willing to put their time and their talent on the line to talk to you, and they're holding webinars, networking events on LinkedIn. If you have an opportunity, maybe you have half an hour, maybe you have an hour, tap into those resources, jump on LinkedIn, create a very good profile, and even in your header, let people know that you're a law student, so we know right off the bat, okay, we can talk to this person, and just connect. Get on their webinar, be active in the chat. Even if you don't want to speak live, you do have that chat function, you have that Q&A, and it'll help you connect with a lot more students. It'll help you connect with a lot more attorneys, and even people that may not necessarily be going down the path that you're going down. Like, for example, there's an attorney, his name is, or a former attorney, former big law attorney, his name is Alex Sue, and he came to me because he was looking to implement a contract system within the company that I work for. And at the time, we weren't looking for a contract system. I was like, that's not something that's, that we're really looking at. But we took the opportunity to chat a little bit because I looked at his profile and I was like, oh, okay, you used to be an attorney. He's like, oh, you used to be a big law attorney. All right, so let's talk for a second. He was like, yeah, no, it's not what it's all cracked up to be. So we had an actual dialogue, but later I found out that he was doing seminars and webinars for law students and pre-law students. So now I'm trying to get all of the law students that I know, hey, go attend his webinar. He has some really good information. If they don't see it, I share it. So just making sure that you're engaged online, because what else are you going to do besides watch Netflix, get on LinkedIn, and make sure that you're building your network that way.
All right. So those were all amazing. You all are, I mean, just blow me away. I don't really have anything to add when it comes to non-traditional forms of networking because you all talked about them, bar associations, Toastmasters, just finding people on LinkedIn. All of those are very, different ways to network. We don't always have to just follow this cookie cutter model of networking at some type of event or forum. We can just find ways to just talk to people and get to know people. I do want to sort of end this forum out with sort of a last takeaway or either a do or don't for networking. So if each of you ladies could actually share either a do for networking, a don't, or either a last takeaway, then that's sort of how we're going to wrap up tonight's event. So I'll start with you, Danielle.
If I had a takeaway with networking, I think we've all kind of echoed it in some way, shape, or form. But the biggest thing I would say about networking is just knowing what it is that you bring to the table in any given aspect. So, Ashley, you gave us this great book and this great kind of mantra that you give yourself when you're walking into a networking event, which is you are the most powerful person in this room. People want to talk to you. As Black women especially, we suffer from imposter syndrome. So we're already walking into this field feeling as though we don't belong, that the obstacles are stacked against us. And when you come into something like networking with that type of mentality, it's going to affect you. So you have to negate that with positive affirmations. And then, you have to remind yourself that you come in with a certain level of experience as well. Even if you don't have legal experience specifically, you have lived life experience. You have passions and things that you want to do with your law degree and with your bar card. So make sure that you're able to translate that. Have a 30-second elevator pitch. You may not have 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour to kind of sit and talk about yourself and what it is that you want. So you've got to make sure that when you're going to these networking events, you're able to create a concise kind of synopsis of who you are and what you're looking for and what you have to bring to the table. So work on that. I kind of did that, and actually a professor at FAMU, Professor Corey Harvey, made us do an assignment where we created a pamphlet that was just about us. And in the pamphlet, we had to talk about what our passions were, what our experience was, and what we could bring to any firm, organization, corporation that we wanted to work for. And so I encourage you to kind of do that because it'll remind you of all the things that you bring to the table as well. But remember that you have value. And so when you walk into a room, you have to make sure that you exude that value to other people, or else networking is kind of pointless.
I love that. What about you, Lashawn? What's one of your either do's or don'ts for networking, or just a takeaway for the attendees tonight?
I think one of the things that we all pretty much touched on was the importance of LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is very underestimated. If you are one of those people where you have 10 connections on LinkedIn, but you have like 2,500 connections on Instagram, it's a problem. That's a problem that you're going to want to fix as soon as possible. Of course, you still have time, but understand that LinkedIn does have a lot of power. LinkedIn, it's like a free encyclopedia when you think about it. It's just an open encyclopedia of other attorneys or other people in the legal field, even outside of the legal field, where you can kind of just get to know them and kind of fast forward through the process of networking. So if you have already connected with someone on LinkedIn, now you already know what school they graduated from, where they work, how long they've worked there, what city they live in, anything else that they might have posted or published. So things like that, it's super, super great tool. So please, please, please make sure if you don't have a LinkedIn page, just make one. It's completely free. You don't have to sign up for a premium account and pay money. No. Make sure that your resume is up to date. Definitely make sure your resume is up to date. And I would say a big, big, big do is professionalism. Unfortunately, I think sometimes we don't get as much respect from I don't want to say the older legal community because, they kind of see it as like, oh, well, you're a millennial, or they'll look at me and they're just like, okay, well, let me guess, this 20-something-year-old is just going to come and just be rude. But when I'm in court, when I'm in court and I'm there with my client and the judge hears me, I'm not just saying judge, I'm saying your honor, yes, your honor, no, your honor, good morning, your honor, how are you doing, your honor? They love me because they're just like, this is great. She's professional. She makes sure that she gives me the respect and the decorum that this court and I deserve. So making sure that your level of professionalism is up to where it needs to be. Don't go in there and start saying hey to people or anything like that. Just Mr. and Mrs. If they say, okay, you can call me this, then that's fine. But don't just start saying Steve or Frank or Brittany. Like, you're not friends with Brittany, so don't call her Brittany. So really just giving people that level of respect and professionalism so they can take you seriously as well. I would say don't sell yourself short. Don't sell yourself short. Know what you bring to the table. Know that you have value. And don't ever think that because I'm not an attorney, I'm like this small. No. You are worthy of just as much respect as an attorney or a judge or anybody else. So don't ever let anyone devalue you, and don't devalue yourself.
Love it. Thank you, Lashawn. What about you, Randi? Just a quick do or don't, and then a takeaway for tonight's event.
I get this question last, so I'm going to answer it like this. Big don't. No, you should not bring your resume to a networking reception, but you can absolutely weave certain aspects of your resume into the conversation. It should be seamless, and I show you how to do that in the networking receptions pamphlet on the networkingforlawstudents.com website. Another don't. Don't lead with your sexual foot. It had to be said. Don't bring up any sexual talk or innuendo. If someone else does, you may need to excuse yourself from the conversation or move on to talk to someone else. I don't want you to be scared or intimidated, but it does happen, and I just want you to be prepared for it.
Love it. All right. And what about you, Brittany? What would you say is a do or don't, or just a last minute takeaway for the panelists, not panelists, but the attendees tonight?
Let's see. As far as a don't, I would say don't trauma dump. Don't try and play the victim just to try and get a job or connections and try and make it based on pity. Just because you're a minority or because of your story, that doesn't necessarily work. What I would say is to try and fashion your story in such a way so that you can present your struggles and show what you've overcome and what you can bring to the organization or the school.
Love it. All right. So I'm gonna end it with one of my, I guess, just a takeaway. We kind of talked about, networking being important and how you should network strategically. So that would sort of be my takeaway. Be strategic when it comes to networking and building those relationships. However, don't look down on any person that you come in contact with just because they simply may not have the title that you're seeking, or they may not be someone that you think you need, because you'll actually need them. Everyone that you come in contact with, I strongly believe that every person that you come in contact with, there's some type of divine connection and a reason for why you're coming into contact with them. And that person may have your next opportunity right there in the palm of their hand, and you may not know it because you may overlook them simply because they may not look the part, or they may not fit the role that you think that they should fit. They may have an opportunity that you think that you need. So I say that the reason why I say that is because there are plenty of law students that I've come in contact with that may not have known that I was an attorney and did not think that I was someone that they wanted to sort of interact with or have a conversation with. And then when they found out that I was an attorney, then it was like, oh no, I want to talk to her now. I want to talk to her now. But now that's already in my mind that initially you did not think that I was someone that was worthy of you speaking to. But now that you know my title, now your thoughts and your sentiments have changed. So just be very cognizant of that and understand that every person that you come in contact with is important. Everyone's valuable. But at the same time, still be strategic about who you're meeting and knowing why you want to meet them.
There's a question in the chat about wearing makeup. Is it a must for networking receptions? The answer to that question among the panelists was to do whatever makes you feel comfortable. But yes, wearing lipstick, even if no other makeup is worn, is still seen as more professional than a naked lip. Before we get to the end, there's a question later in the chat that we didn't get a chance to answer, so I'm going to answer it now. Someone asked about having natural hair at a networking reception. You can absolutely, as an African American person, wear your natural hair at a networking event. Are there some uninformed people that don't like that? Sure. But that's probably somebody that wouldn't have you in their network anyway, and vice versa. If someone finds fault with that, that's somebody who would probably find some imaginary fault with you in the future. So absolutely go ahead and do what makes you feel comfortable. Just make sure it's neat, and that's it. And wear your natural hair.
So I want to I am going to end this out. I do want to thank all of you for coming on tonight. All of our panelists, you ladies were amazing. To all of our attendees that came on tonight, thank you all so much. Again, this was put on by Becoming Black Female Barristers, or BBFB. If you all missed it in the beginning, I talked a little bit about what BBFB is, Becoming Black Female Barristers. It's a social platform that is currently right now on Facebook, but it's a social platform that I created to allow aspiring and current and aspiring law students to sort of interact with licensed female attorneys. And it sort of gives you all an opportunity to engage with us, create authentic relationships. We have a mentorship program. So it just gives you an opportunity to really share with us and develop relationships, share tips for success, professional development, personal development, all of those things. So if you are not a member of BBFB and you are on Facebook, please join us. You can find the Facebook group Becoming Black Female Barristers. Join us. We do have our mentorship program, and we are putting on events every month. So please, please, please join us if you haven't. And again, thank you all for tuning in, and I hope you all have a good night.
Subscribe to our new YouTube channel. It's free. Networking for Law Students LLC. Visit our website, networkingforlawstudents.com. We're on Instagram. It's Networking for Law Students 1, and Facebook is Networking for Law Students. Be sure to check out our courses on thinkific.com. We have a new and totally free study skills course that can be used for both law school exams and the bar exam.